There were many events that led up to the Declaration of Independence, one of which was the French and Indian War, which was a 7-year war between England and the American colonies against the French and some of the Native Americans in North America. When the war ended on February 10, 1736, England and the American colonies came out on top, but at a high price. Great Britain spent a great deal of money fighting the war, and the colonists fully participated in the war. Both of these facts were to have a profound effect on the future of the colonies, as the British looked to the colonies to pay those costs. As England looked for ways to pay for the cost of protecting the colonies, they instituted the Stamp Act on March 22, 1765, which required the American colonists to pay a tax on every piece of printed paper they used. The American colonists opposed the Stamp Act because England was trying to raise money in the colonies without the approval of the colonial legislatures. Another catalyst was the Boston Massacre, which was a result of British soldiers being quartered in private homes and public schools. Soldiers were even taking extra jobs around the town, raising tensions and hostilities between civilians and soldiers, until finally it erupted on the night of March 5, 1770. A British officer had left a local boy bruised and crying, which left him facing an angry crowd of civilians, so he called for help, and 8 soldiers came to his aid as a church bell rang, which usually means there is a fire. There is confusion, and then the crowd starts throwing ice and rocks, taunting the soldiers. One of the soldiers is knocked down, and someone yells, "Fire!" and the soldiers shoot into the crowd, killing 5 and wounding 6 civilians. This event was skillfully depicted as a battle for American liberty by Samuel Adams. On December 16, 1773, American patriots disguised as Mohawk Indians threw 342 chests of tea belonging to the British East India Company into Boston Harbor. The Boston Tea Party was a result of Americans protesting both a tax on tea, taxation without representation, and the perceived monopoly of the East India Company. In response to the Boston Tea Party, Parliament passed a series of punitive measures known as the Intolerable Acts, including the Boston Port Bill, which shut off the city's sea trade until they paid for the destroyed tea. The British hoped to make an example of them, but instead, these acts only further united the colonies and pushed closer to war. The First Continental Congress met on September 5, 1774, largely in response to the Intolerable Acts. They sent the king a declaration that laid out the colonial objections to the Intolerable Acts, listed a colonial Bill of Rights, and provided a detailed list of grievances. The declaration concluded with an outline of Congress's future plans to enter into a boycott of British trade unless their grievances were addressed. The Congress also set up the Second Continental Congress, which organized the Americans into war against Britain. Tensions continued to mount between Britain and the American colonies. When Dr. Joseph Warren learned that the British were planning to destroy guns and ammunition the colonists had stored in the town of Concord, just outside of Boston, and also planned to arrest Samuel Adams and John Hancock, 2 of the key leaders of the Patriot movement, he sent Paul Revere to alert the colonists. Samuel and John escaped, and Minutemen assembled in Lexington. On April 18, 1775, the first shots of the Revolution were fired. The Minutemen were outnumbered, and the British were able to destroy part of the ammunition storage that had not been moved. However, as the British headed back to Boston, they were attacked by Minutemen all along the way back. George Washington was made Commander-in-Chief on June 15, 1775. He was the one necessary person whose calm, unswerving, determined sense of patriotic duty to country and ability to put real backbone into the Revolution and kept it from collapsing or merging into a civil conflict. Under the hardships and unexpected privations encountered during the 8 years of war, his faith in the cause and his devotion to the ideals it embodied made him the symbol of America, the spirit of the Revolution. These events, along with many others, culminated in a very important event that took place on July 4, 1776, when the Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. In its preamble, the Declaration of Independence states why the colonies are overthrowing Great Britain's rule over the colonies. Our founding fathers believed that all men are created equal, and there are certain unalienable rights that government should never violate. If these rights are violated, it is the right and duty of the people to overthrow that government, and in its place, the people should establish a government that is designed to protect those rights. So in this case, a long history of abuses has led the colonists to overthrow a tyrannical government. With the Declaration of Independence in hand, the United States of America was ready to fight for their independence, which we celebrate every 4th of July.